Hello, I'm Larry Hembroff. I'm the Director of Research and Evaluation at the National Social Norms Center at Michigan State University. I used to teach social research methods, but in 1988, I was asked to form the Office for Survey Research at MSU, which I then oversaw for 25 years. During that time, OSR conducted hundreds of surveys of all types and on many diverse topics. We were frequently asked questions about how best to do the surveys, and many of those questions were about sampling. Some people asked how we can possibly learn anything certain about very large populations by looking at the results of surveys of relatively small samples of individuals. Even when people think it is possible, they often worry that if the response rate to the surveys are low, the results of the sample survey might be too distorted to really be representative of the population. These are important questions and concerns. We'd like to explore these questions in this series of demonstrations, but to do so, we will need to have a population about which we can know a few things that are factually true, and we will also need to be able to select samples from that population so we can see how well samples of various types produce results that more or less accurately represent the population. I've assembled a data set containing information about each of 250,000 individuals, and I've opened the data file in a software package called the Statistical Packages for the Social Sciences, or SPSS. SPSS is a very powerful, complex set of programs used for statistically analyzing data. Here is the data file that I created as it appears in SPSS. The data file is made up of rows and columns. Each row in the data file represents the information we have on each of the individuals. This is the information we have about individual number 3. This is the information we have about individual number 14. This is the information we have about individual number 22, and so on. We oftentimes refer to each of the individuals in the data file as a case. The columns are the specific pieces of information we have on each of the individuals. For example, this column, area, shows the area code of the phone number that was used to contact each of the individuals. The column labeled date contains the specific date each individual was called on the telephone. So the rows are the individual cases, and the columns are the pieces of information we have about each case. In the data file, the cases are numbered sequentially on the left-hand side, starting with case number 1, and going up to the total number of cases in the data file. And in this particular data file, there are 250,000 cases. So I'm going to scroll down the data file so you can see them all and assure you that there really are 250,000 cases in this data file. I'm getting down near the end of the file. And now we're at the bottom. And here's the last case in the data file, and its number is 250,000. So we really do have 250,000 cases here. Now, one of the things that SPSS is good at is analyzing data. So we want to find out something that is factually true about this population. And we want SPSS to generate some statistics for us. And in particular, we'd like a frequency distribution. And we'd like to know something about, we're going to pick var-B. Now, var-B is a question that was asked about how many times people had refused to participate in the survey when asked in the previous year. And there are 5 possible answers. And so we want SPSS to tell us how many people out of the 250,000 gave each of the 5 different answers for this question. So when I click on OK, SPSS is going to scan down the column that's marked var-B, and it's going to count how many people gave each of the 5 different answers. And it's going to generate results and report them as a table, and it's going to show them over here in this output window. I'm going to say OK. Now it has generated the results, and it's showing us that it did in fact scan 250,000 cases, and it counted how many people gave each of these different answers. It says 97,738 had indicated they had never refused, 120,829 had indicated they had only refused once, 22,563 had indicated they refused 2 or 3 times, and so forth, and the grand total is 250,000. SPSS has also calculated what percentage each of these is of the total. And over here it indicates that 39.1% of all the individuals had reported never having refused, 48.3% had indicated refusing only once, 9% had indicated they refused 2 or 3 times, 3.1% 4 or 5 times, and 0.4% indicated they had refused 6 or more times. So this is what we know now is true of this population of 250,000 people. So what we'd like to do is draw samples from this population and see how well the samples estimate what is true. I'm going to copy this here and paste it over in this other document where it'll be more easily seen as we proceed and draw samples of various types from this population. Now, most of the time we're doing samples, we do so because it's not possible for us to survey an entire population. It either costs too much, takes too long, or it's too complicated, too difficult. People are scattered too widely for us to survey everyone. So instead, we rely on samples from the population as estimators of what is true. But most of the time, we don't know what is really true. We draw the samples to estimate what we think might be true. So some sampling procedures are probably going to be better than others, and we want to see how well certain kinds do. And that's what we're going to do in the next video. We'll draw some samples and see how well they come at estimating what we now know is true of this population.